All right, buckle up because today we are diving into the story of Samson.
Yeah, Samson.
He's a biblical hero with more twists and turns than
Oh, yeah,
a chariot race for sure.
absolutely. And we're going deep into the book of Judges,
Gotcha.
chapters 13 to 15, to try to unravel this story
Okay.
of superhuman strengths,
Right.
fiery vengeance,
Yeah.
and a hero who can make even the most complicated character today look straightforward.
I mean, when you think of like biblical hero, you think king, right? Or prophet
Oh,
Samson. Not so much.
not quite.
This is a guy who seems to like thrive on chaos.
Yeah, and what I think is so fascinating about Samson is how his story embodies that tension that we all feel between our human flaws
Mhm.
and then this yearning for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
So you have ancient Israel, and they're caught in this cycle of disobedience towards God. And then that inevitably leads to them being oppressed by the Philistines.
Mhm.
And then interstage left Samson,
Right.
a beacon of hope, but also a walking contradiction.
Okay, so let's set the scene a little bit here. We're introduced to Samson's father, Manoah.
Right.
His wife is unable to have children, and an angel of the Lord appears to them.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? I mean, for some pretty life-altering news, right?
This is not your typical congratulations, it's a boy.
Yeah, it's a boy.
This is the divine decree.
Right.
A prophecy announcing that Samson would be set apart from birth, chosen for a singular purpose, to begin to free Israel from the clutches of the Philistines.
No pressure.
Talk about pressure.
Talk about pressure. And if that wasn't enough, this destiny comes with some serious strings attached. Oh, yeah? The Nazarite vow. Yeah. This wasn't a suggestion. This was a lifelong commitment.
Right.
No haircuts, no grapes, no contact with the dead.
Right, it was strict.
Strict. Why?
So the Nazarite vow, it was about total dedication to God. It marked Samson as wholly set apart.
Oh, God.
And this is what I think is so interesting. Samson's life was this constant push and pull between his divine mission and his very human weaknesses.
Right. So we've got Samson, this guy destined for greatness. But before he even goes toe-to-toe with his first Philistine, he's already stirring up trouble.
Yeah.
He falls head over heels for it. Wait for it.
A Philistine woman?
Philistine woman.
I'm sure his parents were thrilled. Oh, yeah, you could almost hear the parental groans from here, can't you? This is the group of people that he's supposed to be liberating Israel from.
Exactly.
And here he is smitten with one of their own.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
And disaster is what we get.
That's right.
So speaking of unexpected encounters, let's talk about Samson's run-in with the lion.
Yes.
This isn't your average nature walk.
This is not your average nature walk.
No, this is not a walk in the park.
No, not at all. So picture this. Samson, he's on his way to visit this Philistine woman, and bam, a full-grown lion appears,
Oh, boy.
roaring, ready to rumble.
So what does he do? Does he run? Does he, like, try and talk to it?
Knowing Samson,
I highly doubt it.
you're right, he faces it head on and get this, he rips the lion apart with his bare hands.
Yeah.
You got to imagine that the Philistines are like terrified after seeing that.
I would be.
But it gets even crazier.
Okay.
Because later Samson, he passes by the lion's carcass and he finds, of all things, a honeycomb.
Inside.
Yeah, inside.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just any honeycomb, it's dripping with honey.
Okay.
So what's the significance of this honey?
So this seemingly insignificant detail, this honey, it actually speaks volumes.
Okay.
So you see, it represents this unexpected sweetness that can come from even the most brutal, the most unlikely of places.
Okay.
Some even see it as a sign of God's blessing amidst the carnage.
Right.
It's almost like even when things seem really bleak, there's always something good to be found.
That's kind of a beautiful way to look at that.
Yeah.
But honey aside, Samson's love life, it continues to be, shall we say, complicated. Oh, yeah.
Which brings us to the infamous riddle at the wedding feast.
Ah, yes, the riddle.
So tell me about this riddle.
So it's more than just a party game, isn't it? It's a power play.
Yeah.
It's a way for Samson to assert his dominance over the Philistines, even in the midst of their celebration.
Okay, so for those of you who maybe haven't heard this story before or need a refresher, the riddle was, out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet.
Okay.
Not exactly a brain teaser for the ages,
Right.
but there's clearly something deeper going on here, right?
Oh, absolutely. The
And-
riddle itself, it's full of symbolism, alluding to his encounter with the lion and the honey that he found.
Okay.
But it also reveals something about Samson's character.
Okay.
He's cunning, he's a bit of a showman,
Mm-hmm.
and he thrives on challenge.
I can see that.
But as you might have guessed, yeah,
This little game of wits doesn't go quite according to plan.
let's just say,
Oh, no.
Samson may have overestimated how much the Philistines like to play fair at a party.
They're not exactly known for their sportsmanship, are they?
No, not really.
You see Samson's wife, she's caught between her husband and her own people.
Right.
And she caves under the pressure.
Yeah.
She betrays his trust and tells them the answer to the riddle.
Not cool.
Not cool at all. And, Samson doesn't exactly take betrayal lightly, does he?
No, he does not. This is where we really see that famous Samson temper come out.
Oh, yeah.
And, when Samson gets mad,
Oh, boy.
things get explosive.
Things get messy.
Things get messy. Yeah, like we're talking scorched earth here.
Yeah.
He unleashes this wave of fury on the Philistines, burning their fields,
Wow.
just wreaking havoc. You could practically feel the rage radiating off the pages, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
He even grabs the jawbone of a donkey.
Yeah.
Talk about using what you've got.
Desperate times.
Right, and he slaughters 1,000 Philistines with it.
Okay.
It's brutal. It's visceral.
Yeah.
It's a display of strength. And let's be honest, terrifying vengeance.
It's like he's this unstoppable force of nature,
Right.
fueled by this potent cocktail of, anger, heartbreak, and this twisted sense of divine justice.
Precisely. And this is where I think the story gets even more complex,
Okay.
because even in his rage, even this thirst for revenge, he is fulfilling the prophecy
Yeah.
that was made at his birth.
Right.
He is delivering Israel,
That's true.
albeit through some rather unconventional and, let's be honest, pretty messy methods.
Yeah. What do you think about that? It makes you think about the gray areas of heroism.
It really does.
Where's the line between what's right, what's wrong, revenge?
Right. Where's that line?
Can you really be an instrument of God's will when you're that driven by these basic human emotions?
Right. It's a question that's resonated for centuries.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's no easy answer.
Right.
But one thing is for sure. The Philistines, they were not just going to sit back and watch their fields burn.
No, they were not.
They retaliated.
Yeah.
And they retaliated brutally.
This is where the story takes an even darker turn.
Yeah.
Would you say? It's like a punch to the gut.
That's devastating.
The Philistines, in this horrific act of revenge, they burn Samson's wife and her father alive.
Imagine that loss. The agony, the fury. It's just such a turning point in the story.
Totally.
Because it's this brutal reminder of the reality of this conflict and this high price of defiance.
You can't imagine the rage
Oh, no.
that's been going through Samson after that.
Just consuming him.
Yeah. It's almost as if this act just fueled his strength even more.
Absolutely.
His resolve, he becomes this legendary figure,
Right.
feared by his enemies, but also a symbol of hope for the Israelites.
He becomes an embodiment of that unbridled primal need for justice.
Yeah.
Even if that justice, is delivered with a heavy hand.
Right.
And you're right, he becomes more than just a man. He's a myth in the making.
It's crazy. And I think that's part of what makes his story so compelling, so enduring.
I agree.
Because he's not a perfect hero, not even close.
Not at all.
He's flawed. He's driven by passion, by vengeance.
Right.
He makes some really questionable choices.
He does.
But maybe that's what makes him relatable.
Absolutely.
Human.
Samson, he reminds us that even those who are chosen for greatness, even those who are touched by the divine,
Mm-hmm.
they're still vulnerable to the same weaknesses,
Right.
the same temptations as the rest of us.
It's true.
It's a story that really challenges us.
It does.
It challenges our perceptions of heroism.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about ourselves
Totally.
and about the choices that we make.
So as we get to the end of our deep dive in Samson,
Yeah.
his strength, his passions, and his very human flaws,
Right.
what do you think is the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think Samson's story, as wild as it is, it ultimately asks us to consider what is a hero.
Okay.
It's so easy for us to celebrate the victories, right? The strength.
Of course.
But what about the rage, the vengeance? Can we reconcile those things with this idea of a hero?
It's tough.
Or is it a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the strongest among us can be consumed by their demons?
Man, tough questions. I think that's what makes this story so fascinating.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It really makes you think, and it sticks with you.
It does.
And as we leave Samson grappling with his destiny and with the weight of a nation on his shoulders,
Yeah.
we'll leave you with this. How do you define heroism?
That's a great question.
Food for thought.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.